Okay, we're getting near the end here. Let's do a demo on utilities. Utilities are ways that it'll be easy for all of us developers to extend the functionality of this framework without having to alter the system. It'll be nice to have some developers to really work on the system and expand it, in the ways that are central and core for everyone, but then everyone's going to want to have their own custom stuff added on. And there's probably a lot we can do with just the modules, as I'm calling utilities in this framework. Perhaps most, if not all, of our future development, and probably not all, but a lot of the future development could just be in terms of these utilities. So let me explain. A utility is just a block of code that gets initialized and is available to your the rest of your application. Let's show you an example. All right, if you go to the demo site, I'm on the local copy, my local server here, and you go to employment, and you do, I would like to apply for a job. There's a form, okay? You try to submit this form, and it submits to itself, and this is saying, excuse me, it's validation. We got form validation going on. Full name is required. Okay, so we put something in there, and then we submit. And see, now the full name error message is gone because it's filled out. Age is needed. Young. Age field is required, so I put young. It doesn't say that anymore, but now it says, or it said it all along, I can't remember. Age field must be a valid number. So 22. I'm not 22, but anyway. Now that's gone. See, anyway. This form validation is happening not because of something I built into the system as such, none of these system files, which is the core stuff that we would not like to touch just for something simple like a module like this, but this form validation is happening because of a utility, this one. Govinda's old form validation.dna, and this is really old, and I would like to make improvements on it, make it a lot smarter and validate in different ways, but for now it's something. It's just to give an example of how to use these utilities, and it works, so you can feel free to use this. There's notes at the top including an example of how to use it. The long and short of it is it defines a function. Govinda's old form validation function. And that's basically it. It's just a function defined, and then we return a variable called alert user to neglect. If the user neglects something, like they don't put their name, then it's going to tell them that. And it's going to disallow the form to do whatever it does when everything's filled out properly. So this function, oops, I forgot to rename it. See, that's the name. And down here, I forgot to do that. So this function, Govinda's old form validation, is being used in the human resources controller in the employment method. Let's go there. Human resources at the top. Methods. Here we go. Here's the start of our methods. 404, default, employment. Here we go. Here's the block that fires when we come in here. And if they first come in here, there's these choices, right? And they click this one, I want to apply for a job. So then instead of just employment, it says in the URL, employment apply. And that's why, so controller param 1 becomes apply, which is not this case and not this case, but it is this case. So this is the block that fires. And in here we've got, if the form was submitted, this is a hidden variable in the form. If it's submitted, yes, then here's what code we fire when the form was submitted. And we initialize the variable alert user to neglect to, and this is just my design. You can do whatever you want. This is basically a demo on utilities, and I'll get back to the point here shortly. Alert user to neglect, I've chose to do it this way. Initialize a variable equal to a function. And this whole long hairy looking thing there is really just one function. And these are all variables being passed into the function. And the reason why we can call this function is because it's already been defined. Well, where has it been defined? In this controller? No. In the system? No. It's been defined in this utility, as I said. See? Right here. So that's that. Anyone can use this utility that loads this utility. It comes default with this framework, but as you guys make and gals make more utilities, just drop them in, submit them to the submit them to the list so we can all take advantage of the utilities, the WebDNA list, and then in your own application, and in our own applications when you share with us, we will all stick them here. Here's my local Applez's website. Here's my framework folder, and there's the applications folder, and in there is the utils folder. Drop the utilities in here like I've done with the Govinda's old form validation utility, and then just because it's dropped in here doesn't mean you're using it. To make sure you're using it, because you could have this cluttered with just a lot of old stuff and it'd be, bloatware. So make sure you just load the ones you're actually using in your application, and where you load them is one of two places. First of all, you can load it in one of your config files, like here. See? Here, load the utilities you want for your whole site, your whole application that uses this framework. You just put the name of the utility minus util underscore. Here. Excuse me, I was just matching these up to make sure these in fact do match. See, WCS underscore gen whitespace, WCS underscore gen whitespace. And so yeah, lop off the .dna and lop off the util underscore, and the middle part stick here. So this will, because in this config file, I've got this in here, on my whole site then will therefore have the code that's in this utility available to it site-wide. Great. So that's what I want to do to save me more work from including it in more and more places. In one place and it's available site-wide. But what if I've got a utility that I don't actually want loaded site-wide? It would just cause the site to be too bloated, and I only need the utility on one particular controller. Like on the human resources controller. You remember I've got this form validation utility, and I don't need it in menu and the food controller. I don't need it in the info controller. I only need it in employment because that's what this form is. So instead of sticking it here, the utility here, loading it here in my config file, I want to load it right in the controller itself. So the other place you can load utilities besides in your config is in the controller that you want it to appear in. Near the top, see the init section? This just goes from here to here, the init section, initialize section. And right in the middle here, start here, list the utilities you want for this controller. Same thing as the config. Right, we're in food. Human resources. Here we go. Govinda's old form validation. This utility is being loaded in this human resources controller. And that's why that code was available to me here. So I hope that was clear. It'd be nice, just to follow up addendum thought on this discussion about utilities, it'd be nice if people like this framework or start to use it, then they could make some utilities that would fulfill some of the need that the community could like to see. I mean, I know there's just not that many of us, and I know that a lot of us have our own custom code, and maybe that's just the way it's going to be. But if we're going to make some cool framework that the community as a whole would benefit from and a lot of us would use, then we need some more stuff. We need, like, for example, a shopping cart module, which could just be a set of utilities. We need, well, I'll just think of a proper list later, but the shopping cart module comes to mind right away because, of course, we need to be able to make e-commerce sites. So have at it, and don't forget to share.